you take it away?
I'm sorry, Karen, was that?
Why don't you start?
Okay, well, for anybody who didn't join us for the first session, just want to welcome our new members as well as returning members. Anyone who didn't see the first session, we do have it recorded, and this one will be recorded as well. I want to thank all of you for joining us. We really have a great membership, and everyone is, we're just growing, and it's really exciting. Before I introduce Michelle, I think, Karen, do you want to introduce yourself? Or well, we have Anne. So why don't we let Anne say a few words, since she wasn't here for our last session.
Okay, well, hi. I think they've heard a few words from me anyway, but yeah, so this is an exciting time for us. Obviously, we're seeing that the community is very vibrant here. We're seeing that Jersey's strong, bringing everybody together. And our startup year is looking fabulous. We're excited to be partnering with some LPGA pros such as Michelle Melia, and we're excited to be able to offer that to our membership. There are some other partnerships that you will be seeing with First Tee, Girls Golf, and even supporting the ShopRite Classic. So there are many ways we can enjoy this sport, but obviously we want to get our game up and going so that we can really gloat and brag about our rounds.
Thanks, Anne. Karen is the secretary of our chapter. Karen, do you have anything you want to say?
I welcomed everyone last time. If you weren't here before, I welcome you. I'm glad to see that even if people weren't able to attend our session, I just got, came back and had an email from Lynn Vetterisi, who said, people are watching it on YouTube, not only our website, but YouTube. So if you want to watch it a second time, or you want to review our first session, it's there for you. So let's enjoy tonight. And Alice is here as the treasurer.
Thank you so much. So we do want to get straight into the session this evening. Michelle Melia is an LPGA Class A professional. She is the current head coach for the Monmouth University women's golf team. And she also is a lead instructor at the Golf Cave in Eatontown, which offers group and individual classes. And then there is actually a discount for members to take lessons with her one-on-one. And she also is involved with the First Tee. So Michelle's a very busy lady, and she offered a great session, as was mentioned. It's available on YouTube, and I'm looking forward to this evening. So Michelle, why don't you get us going?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, can everybody hear me well? We're good?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. Great to be here again, and and so excited about the formation of this new chapter. I think this is going to be fantastic for women's golf and girls golf here at the Jersey Shore, and great to be here as I mentioned, and hopefully give a nice little topic, our second series of mastering golf with me, which is I don't know if we can ever master golf, but we're certainly going to keep trying. So the first session that we have, we're focusing on some of the things that we can do for a full swing in regards to getting ready.
Could somebody make Michelle like the whole screen? I know I don't know how to do it myself, but I've had Zoom because we're looking at a whole bunch of little people, and if we could make Michelle be the main.
Really? I see Michelle as the main screen. Just Michelle.
I have everybody. Okay, hold on a second.
Where changed it to speaker view.
Can you?
I think you have a speaker view.
Okay.
Speaker view.
Yeah.
And ladies, I do want to remind everyone to please, if you don't have it, I'd rather everybody be on mute when possible, just because if we have a dog or some background interruptions this way, we keep focused on Michelle, and later on there'll be opportunities to ask questions.
Thank you. I'm now on speaker view.
Awesome.
Claire, how did you do that?
You go up to the top right corner.
Okay.
And it says view.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Our brand new world that we have to figure out all these small details within Zoom. So I feel like every week I'm learning something new. But so we're going to tonight, the first session that we did, we talked a lot about how to get some of the winter dust off for the upcoming season. And we were focusing really on stretching, full swing mechanics, some basic rotation motions we can make, those type of things. And if you haven't had a chance to look at the video, please definitely check it out on YouTube. It's great that people are still accessing it, and that's a great feature of us being able to record these sessions. Tonight we're going to dive into short game, okay? And this is probably, I always say things like, this is my favorite thing to talk about. I love talking about golf. I'm extremely biased about it. But this is one of my favorite topics to discuss, because I think this is part of the game that a lot of times we don't put enough energy into practice or focus throughout the entire year. So just for example, when I'm working with women at Monmouth University, and obviously they're outstanding golfers and athletes, and we're preparing for tournaments, we actually use a 70-30 rule. We spend 70% of our time working on short game, okay, and 30% of our time working on full swing. Most times when I go to a driving range or a practice facility, it's the opposite, right? I see a lot of people hitting balls. I see a lot of people using, especially the driver, and not a lot of people on the putting green working on their 3-footers and 5-footers that they may face during their round, and a place where really you could lower your scores pretty quickly. So I would suggest and encourage you, as you guys get into this season, to maybe start looking at your practice sessions and maybe trying to use more of that 70-30 rule. So 70% of your focus being on some of the short game shots that we're going to talk about tonight, okay, and 30% on full swing. Okay, sounds really counterintuitive, which is why all of us end up hitting balls more than we put time into putting, chipping, or pitching. Okay, interesting also, if you look at a particular score, almost 60% of the game happens within 50 yards. Okay, when you think about it, if you play 18 holes of golf, you're really hitting driver only 14 times. The average tour player usually averages between 28 and 30 putts per round. So if they're shooting 70, that means all the other shots that they hit that day were probably only 40 shots. And of those, okay, probably 25 to 30 were full swing. The rest was short game. Okay, so this is going to be a place where really I think you can make a big difference in your ability to lower your score. So we're going to start off first and talk about putting, okay, which, again, as I said, you're going to spend a lot of time on the golf course, on the putting green, the mecca of golf. It's where the hole is located, okay? And putting to me is really, very similar to a lot of the full swing stuff that we talked about in the first session. Gets back down to fundamentals. Okay, so one of the things I want to point out is that the putter is designed a lot differently than our other clubs, right? So putter is designed very straight up and straight down, okay? It's one of the swings in golf, and the only swing in golf in which we roll the ball. I don't know if you've ever thought about it that way. The ball doesn't get up in the air. It's the only shot in which the ball stays on the ground, okay? And if I was to take a look at and put up this wedge, pitching wedge, obviously you can see a big difference in the design of the club, okay? Where the pitching wedge is flatter, okay, has more angle of the shaft relative to the club face, okay, where the putter is really very vertical and straight up and straight down. So because of that, we're going to have to set up a little bit differently than we do with our full swing stuff, in that we want to make sure, because the club is so vertical, okay, that we're going to set up to the ball so that our eyes are directly over the ball, okay? Remember, vertical kind of club, and because of that, the club is going to want to travel straight back and straight through, okay? Meaning, think about the old grandfather clock that we used to have, okay, in our former days before all this digital stuff, in which the grandfather clock moved just like a pendulum, okay, where it was moving straight back and straight forward, okay? And because of that, okay, for us to be able to do that when we putt, we're gonna really need our eyes to be directly over the ball. Okay, so you can do that by taking another ball, okay, and dropping it from your nose, right, in between your eyes, and see where that ball hits the ground, and that's where we're gonna want our eyes to be. And that's gonna be pretty important. The reason why is if we were to stand too far away from the ball, okay, all of a sudden this club is no longer straight up and straight down, is it? It's on an angle, okay? And because of that, the club would naturally swing too much around our body, okay? Too much of an arc, which makes it much harder for us to control our speed and our direction, okay? So first thing we'll do, eyes directly over the ball. And then from here, we're gonna let our arms just hang pretty naturally. What I would say to you is to feel like you've got your hands on both thighs, right? And kind of lean down as if you're gonna touch your knees. And once you get just below your knees or above your knees, you're gonna bring your arms together, okay? And that's really where we wanna grip the club. You're gonna notice that I brought my hands down significantly, okay? One thing I'd like to share with you, this is actually not my putter. I just got back from traveling actually with the men's golf team. So my putter is not with me right now, but most putters are designed to be too long for people. So one thing when you go see your PGA or LPGA professional, make sure that your putter is the right length. And where it will be the right length is where my eyes are going to be directly over the ball and where I kind of lean down and let my arms grip the club. Okay, my hands will be on this particular putter a little bit lower than where this club is made for, and that's a good fit for putting. Want to feel like my feet are going to be really nice and steady into the ground, okay? And what I want to try to do from here is just make a nice rocking motion, okay? Where my shoulders are swinging back and forth, and my arms are swinging just like that pendulum, okay? I was to switch towards you, okay? What you're going to notice is two things. These shoulders rocking back and forth, okay? And I think you'll probably notice as well is that my body is what? Still, right? So I'll do that one more time. Really, the only thing that's moving is my shoulders and my arms. My legs are extremely still, so there's no extra motion with our body as we swing. So for a lot of people, this actually is a relief. If you're somebody in the other parts of the game who kind of struggles with pivoting and transferring your weight, we don't do that at all when we putt, okay? We're basically, our feet and our body is gonna be pretty still as we're moving our shoulders back and forth, okay? Now, why I think that this isn't can be problematic for a lot of people, and we discussed this a little bit in our first session, is that in golf, one of the key things to work on is your ability to separate body parts. Meaning, can you move your upper body and keep your lower body still? And can you move your lower body and keep your upper body still? So meaning, can I move my lower body in the full swing, right? But keep my upper body quiet? And can I move just my upper body and keep my hips quiet when I'm putting, okay? And it takes a little work. So if you're working a full-time job and you're not like me chasing a bunch of 20-year-olds around a golf course, and I get to swing a golf club all the time and work on my putting, this might be a skill that might be really helpful for you to get better at. And great way to do that is to work on you can use a golf club to help you with this. And the golf club will be your kind of steadying point, and you start to work your lower body this way, okay? And then what you can do as well, okay, put the club across your chest, and you want to feel like your body's still as you what? Just move your shoulders. And you'll start to get a little bit better at that separation, okay? I'm gonna show you one more really cool drill to do at home, actually, with the ball. We keep calling this the coronavirus ball, okay? So we want to try to really isolate what our upper body's doing, and that we're using our shoulders as one unit. You can take the ball, place it between your elbows, okay? You can use a towel as well, and really just work on this putting motion where, God, can't you see how isolated my upper body is? Okay, everything's working together. You don't see any kind of breakdown with my hands or my wrists. And we're going to keep this moving back and forth. Okay, very simple, easy back, easy through. Okay, with our arms working as one unit. One exercise that I do with my players and anyone who's taking golf lessons from me here at Golf Cave, and everything I'm going to show you today, which is kind of interesting, we do with Division I golfers as well. So these are all fundamentals that help every player. Okay, what I'll do is to work on really getting our sense of what the face and the club is going to do as we go back and forth. It's called the gate drill. So you just take a ruler. You can take you can actually use an alignment stick if you have one of these. Little tip: these alignment sticks, if you buy them, they're like $30 a pop. If you go to Home Depot and just get a garden stick, it works just as well, or a ruler. Okay. I happen to like this ruler. You can see that we color coded it. Okay. So this helps a lot of my students, especially when they're first learning how to play, to learn how to take the club back the same distance back and through. So making swings from green to green, and then maybe blue to blue. And then we know if we're back here by orange, we probably took it way too far back. So kind of gives us a little bit of a guide as we're swinging this back and forth. And for the putting stroke itself, okay, what I have my students do is I'll have them take the heel of the putter, put it right up against the edge of the ruler. So it will look this way. And I'll put it on the ground in a second as well. And have them hit a lot of 3-foot putts. Okay, so short putts where they're using this ruler as a guide, okay, to keep the putter moving on a very tight path, right? Straight back, straight forward. If the putter starts to move out here, okay, we know we've taken the club away from the ruler. Club's not coming back on the right path. If the club starts to swing inside the ruler, okay, we know we're taking the club on the incorrect path as well. Okay, show you one last thing with the very famous coronavirus ball. This is kind of interesting too. So if I'm putting correctly with the ball, okay, this is going to help me keep that ball between my elbows. It's going to help me also create that nice straight back, straight through stroke. If I start moving the club to the outside, you can see now I look very awkward here. The ball is moved away from my chest. And same thing if I move it too far to the inside. It's not really against my chest anymore. So this is going to be really against my chest as I take the club back and forth. Funny old analogy I used to use is if you can imagine if you had a martini glass between your forearms, right? We wouldn't want to be spilling the vodka all over the place, right? We'd want to keep that glass moving back and forth, okay? Straight back, straight through. I think one of the things you may have noticed, I said nothing about the grip, right? Strange, but not really, because in putting is kind of like, I call it like the fairyland of golf, meaning there are lots of ways, even individual ways, to hold a putter as long as it works for you. Okay, so you'll see people, remember the old long putters? Okay, you'll see people, I have a player on my team actually right now that putts with this type of kind of stroke, looks really weird with their hands. I putt left hand low, okay, which means that normally as a right-handed golfer, okay, my left hand's on first, my right hand's on second, okay. I actually putt with my left hand lower than my right, okay, which at first kind of looks awkward, but for me, really, you can probably see how that keeps that pendulum moving back and forth. And if you have a putter lying around, you may want to try a couple. See how that feels, you know, where you're going to take, if you're right-handed, take your left hand, put it below your right, okay? And just make some strokes and see how that feels. For me in particular, it helps me with my pace and keeping everything moving together. I would say we have 19 kids between both the men's and women's teams at Monmouth, and over half of them use this putting stroke, where their left hand's lower than their right. It's become very popular, and if you watch any golf on TV, you'll see that as well. The last thing I want to say about putting, just as an interesting thing, and it's not interactive. I mean, this is interactive, but I can't see like raise of hands right now. But I'm going to throw a question out there, and you guys can just think about it. All right. So, average tour player from 8 feet away from the hole. Okay. I ask this question all the time to people. It's just so interesting. So imagine you're watching Justin Thomas this weekend, and he's got an 8-foot putt. Commentators on. Of course, usually when we watch golf on TV, we see the majority of putts that go in, right? If we were to drop 10 balls, just guess in your mind, how many putts would he make from 10 feet? Okay, we'll use 10 feet. 10-foot putt, 10 balls. How many putts will he make of the 10? So think about that. And the statistic is 4 out of 10. And when I tell people that, they're usually pretty shocked. So he's only making, the average tour player only makes 40% of putts from 10 feet. That's crazy. We would think that they would make them all. Okay. Which gives us two very key lessons. One, putting is a lot harder than it looks, even for the tour players. So we need to be easier on ourselves, okay? And number two, in putting, everything is about controlling distance, okay? And you may have heard the term like a lag putt, being able to get the ball within a couple feet of the hole. The reason why we talk about that is that statistically speaking, okay, if you were to imagine a 3-foot circle around the cup, 98% of those go in. Across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're a tour player or someone who shoots 100. Okay, so from 3 feet, 98% go in. So you're almost guaranteed it's going to go in. Maybe not guaranteed. We're never guaranteed in golf, right? If we're at 5 feet, just 2 feet back, person who shoots 100 from the 18 holes, that 98% goes down to 50%. That's crazy. So from almost being like automatic putt from 3 feet, at 5 feet, the stats go down 50%. Tour player, 8 feet, they go down to 50%.
Wow.
All right. So, yep, crazy. So the big thing that you want to try to do in putting is really control your distance. We always call that the die method. Distance is everything. Meaning, at that 10-footer or that 12-footer or that 20-footer, man, of course I want to make it. And I'm annoyed when it doesn't go in. It's, I'm going to defy the statistics and make all of them, right? But what I want to try to do at that point is I want to get the ball within that 3-foot circle. Okay? Because if it goes in, that's amazing. And some will. Okay? But what I don't want to do is leave myself with what? The 5-footer. Because even the best players in the world, as we get further from the hole, those stats go down. Okay, so we want to try to be a little bit when we're putting and practicing. You're going to do a routine. What I would say is, and this is what we do with our players at Monmouth. We start off first with that gate drill that we did with the ruler, and then what we do is we bring our girls about 10 feet away, and we practice from 10 feet. Okay, and we take the ruler that we just did the gate drill with, and we put it 3 feet beyond the hole. You guys can imagine that? almost like a big trash can around the hole. And at 10 feet, we try to see how many we can get in and how many we can keep in that circle. Okay. And then we move back. And that's how you're going to be able to really lower your scores. Okay. Having good path, good setup, working on that pendulum, and then starting to work on your distance control and speed. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about putting before we move on to chipping? Or you can wait. We're good?
Quick question, if you're practicing, would you start with the 3-footers or would you start with the longer ones?
You start with the 3-footers. Kind of move your way back.
Michelle,
Yes.
where would you recommend for your ball position with your putting?
Generally speaking, it kind of honestly kind of depends on the person. But generally speaking, where I like it is I like the club head in the middle of a person's stance. Therefore, the ball is just a little bit ahead of center. So you're gonna be catching it slightly on the upswing.
Okay.
Because we want to roll the ball. Yep. So 3 things to remember too. This kind of interesting way of looking at the game. I think there's like 3 swings, right? We've got putting where we're rolling the ball. I said that earlier. It's the only time where we roll the ball. And then we get into our chipping, pitching, full swing even with our irons. And in this case, what are we doing? We're hitting down on the ball and the ball is getting up. So we're hitting everything like kind of with a descending blow. Okay. And then once we get to driver, okay, that's the 3rd swing. And think about it, when we drive, we're not hitting the ground at all, right? We don't want to. Okay. We're going to be hitting the entire ball. Okay. And in that case, we'd place that ball more forward in our stance to be able to catch it on the upswing. So I hope that kind of helps kind of give you some of the dynamics of why we place the ball where we do. So I'm putting, catching it slightly on the upswing so it'll roll. With all of our shots where we're hitting down on the ball, we want to be able to have the ball in the middle, maybe sometimes even back of our stance, depending on the type of shot, but definitely in the middle so we can strike the ball and then take some ground. And then with driver, we'd play the ball more forward in our stance because what do we want to do? We want to hit the entire ball. I hope that helps. It's kind of a different way of thinking about it.
Question
Yes.
with respect to ball placement. I'm
Yep.
left-handed, but I play
Sure.
right-handed.
Cool.
That means that my left eye, I find, is dominant. So
Right.
I finally realized after 50 years playing that my dominant eye is ahead of the ball.
That's correct.
So as I've moved the ball forward in my stance to get my eyes, both of them, behind the ball to see the line, it's screwing up the pendulum.
Right. You need to
Pendulum,
follow-
it's ahead of the hitting point is beyond it ends up being a little jerk or yip or something. It's not smooth accelerating through.
Yep. No, absolutely. That's a very good point. Obviously, we're kind of giving a general overview of ball position and whether you're right-handed or left-handed, but absolutely, there's some excellent resources on dominant eye and where ball position should be. And it's very interesting because I think a lot of people who are left-handed and putt right-handed, all those type of things. Like Jordan Spieth is one. He's part of the reason why he's such an amazing putter from certain distances. So you need to follow your dominant eye for sure, because you're right. Your ability to strike the ball cleanly is going to be affected by that. So yeah, what did you end up doing?
I moved the ball closer to my left foot, ahead of center. So that's why what caught my ear was you saying that you'd be picking it up on the upswing.
Right.
Because I sure am. As a matter of fact, my mother always raised her blade to basically put a topspin on a ball.
Sure. I mean, what we're saying is let's just take everybody being, equal without any specifics. And this is a good point because everybody's a little bit different, right? Which is why there's really no cookie cutter aspect of teaching the game. But generally speak, for sure, because, it could be a lot of things. It could be injuries, hip. I've kind of seen it all. Golf's cool because we can adapt things to the individual. And it's never really about, in a golf lesson, at least for me, breaking somebody completely down and starting over. I think everybody's got stuff that they do really, really well. We just want to build on that. But generally speaking, with our technology that we have especially with driver, we want to be able to hit the ball more up to get the ball up in the air at its optimum point so it can travel further. So that's just kind of the science behind that. But there's definitely, I can tell you many stories of people that I've done the complete opposite with and had much better results because it just happened to fit their individual strengths and or things that we had to adapt around. If that makes sense. I'll give you one real quick. I had a gentleman that I had taught for a long time who, no matter what we did, he always would finish on his back foot. And so we ended up going completely in the opposite direction. I think everything that we did with him was the opposite of what you would see in the manual. And he got tremendous results. So I think being really open to nuances based on the individual is important. So I'm glad you brought that up. So anybody else out there who wants to check out what their dominant eye is, it can be very helpful as far with putting, alignment, and all those types of things.
Excuse me, I have a question, Michelle.
Sure.
Yeah, when you said swing the ball up, were you talking about where to hit the ball on the top side, or where are you supposed to hit the ball in the middle of the ball always?
Yeah, I was referring really about driver and putting in the sense that we don't want to get the ball to come up in the air. Okay, so if this is the ball, let me give you an example. If this is the ball, for us to get the ball to go up in the air, we're going to want to catch the ball on a descending blow. Okay, if I'm hitting a driver, okay, this is called a tack angle. If I'm hitting a driver, unfortunately have a driver here, but we'll just imagine this is a driver. When the club comes into the ball, okay, we want to catch it more on the upswing. We're still
so hit it at the bottom of the ball?
Yes, but we're catching it on the up, right, exactly.
Okay.
And that's what's going to get the ball to get up in the air.
Okay.
So a lot of times, how many of you have hit the top part of the ball or hit it thin? And a lot of times it's because people are trying to help the ball up, so they'll hit up here.
Right.
So we were trying to hit more on the descending blow, okay? And we're actually compressing the ball, which gets the ball to go up in the air. And the way the driver is designed, we're catching it more on the upswing to get the ball up.
Okay.
So I think it's funny because a lot of times people will tell you that the swings are the same. Oh yeah, just swing the same way. That's not true.
Right. I've heard that. So, yeah. And I didn't know any better.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, we'll jump into chipping, but chipping's another example of this too, right? So, for example, if we were to go, let's just take the difference between driver and hitting an iron. So, because of the way the club is designed, okay, this is going to be a pretty good segue into chipping, I think. Okay, so if I'm hitting an iron, and you guys can see this, hopefully can see this line between my feet, what you're going to notice is that the club is really in the middle of my stance, and so is my body, right? So my head is really right over the ball. Okay, so when we're swinging a driver, okay, this is what makes driver kind of like why we're talking about it, because it's like this unknown for people. Because the club's longer, okay, we actually are placing the ball where? more towards this front foot, right? But lots of things change when that happens. You see what's changed? Where my body is relative to the ball. So my head's behind the ball, my shoulders are in a little bit of a different position, okay? And where I'm going to be striking the ball is going to be a little bit of a different motion because I'm not hitting the ground. I'm hitting that entire ball off the tee. Okay, so that's why I think for a lot of people when they're told, oh yeah, it's the same swing, and that's a great simplification of what's going on, but it's misleading. And it gets people in trouble because they start to try to swing exactly the same way they were with their irons, and with a driver, it just doesn't work. And you can even see by the setup, I'm completely different. And if you look at tour players, they look exactly the same way. You know, iron, the head's right over the ball. Once we get to the driver, they're a little bit more behind the ball. That's going to put them in a position to strike the ball and not the ground. It's kind of cool. I think it's way cool. So if we were then to talk about chipping, the chipping is kind of like completely on the other side, right? Small swing, right? Small swing, small motion. You got to do some stuff a little bit different. Okay, so if we talked about putting being really just shoulders and arms, right? When we start to get to the chipping motion, this is a little bit of a bigger swing, right? But still a tiny swing. Okay, we're going to do a couple things. Okay, to help control our distance, not hit the ball as far, we're going to narrow our stance. Okay, that's the first thing. So we're going to put our feet, okay, inside of our hips. Okay, for women, use our hips a little wider than our shoulders. That's a good spot to be. I always tell my students, when we make smaller swings, we're going to make ourselves smaller. Okay, so we want our feet to be smaller. We're going to place the club. Okay, so it's to start off with right in the middle of our stance. We'll talk about ball position in a second as far as controlling trajectory. But this is a typical medium trajectory shot, medium height type of shot. Okay, our feet are going to be narrower. Okay, ball in the middle. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my front foot. If I'm right-handed, my left foot, okay, toe it out towards the target a little bit. If I was left-handed, it would be my right. It's called an open stance. Okay, this is going to help make it a little bit easier for me to make this stroke, okay, towards a target. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lean, okay? And you're going to notice I'm leaning everything. You're going to see that my jacket, okay, so different than the driver's setup we just were talking about and regular irons, going to be slightly in front of the ball, okay? But 80% of my weight's going to be on this front leg. And from here, I'm making a nice, okay, small motion back and forth. You probably can see how that coronavirus ball would work with this shot too, wouldn't it? And we've got this triangle moving back and forth and staying very connected to our body. Okay. One of the coolest training aids that I have that you guys can make yourselves is you're going to take an old golf club. You're going to take one of your garden sticks. You're going to get a Home Depot, right? I just put a hole in the bottom of the grip. I just took a screwdriver, just made it a little wider and put the stick in. Okay. So this is an awesome way to practice chipping at the house where we're going to do this setup exactly the same way. Our feet are narrower. Okay. Weight's going to be forward. And what you're going to notice is what? I'm keeping this triangle moving forward. Okay. And this stick where? Moving towards the target. Okay, I'm going to do it towards you guys so you can see the finish, hopefully. You're going to see how my hands are really connected here. I don't know, there's many of you who probably have been told that you use your wrist too much. So if you were going to try to do that with this training aid, you'll see that the stick is going way away from my hip. And then going forward, I just hit myself with the club on this side. So you're going to see that moving this back and forth, and my hands are going to be in front. Okay, Same thing this way. Weights forward, back, and forth. Okay. For the grip for this shot, you can just use your normal grip. Okay. So whatever that might be, we're going to take a look at, the V's. Other hand, we had talked about this last time, like really making sure that they were going in the right direction. The line on the glove, okay, helped a lot of people. And then set up with my narrower stance and back and forth. If I'm going to now, if it was going to be, as I get further for the hole, now we're getting into the world of pitching. Okay, so very similar setup, a little wider stance. Okay, because it's a little bigger swing. Remember, we make our feet represent the type of swing. And here we might be taking a swing from hip high to hip high. Where the chip, we were just outside our back foot and forward to our front foot. Pitch, hip high, to hip high. Okay. One of the things, I get asked a lot is about club selection here. So there's a couple, different, I say like rules of thumb, okay, or thoughts, philosophies. Some people like to teach and have people hit different clubs from different distances. So maybe you're hitting a pitching wedge from X distance from the hole. And then as you get further back, maybe that gets to a sand wedge, or it depends on the philosophy of the teacher or whatever you're reading, or maybe it's the opposite. I'm kind of a fan of maybe picking two clubs, okay, and becoming an expert in those two clubs. Most of us don't have as much time like the tour players do, right? To hit balls all the time and work on touch and feel and those things. So kind of like coming up with a system that works for you. So maybe a sand wedge is your favorite club to chip with. All right. For me, my favorite club to chip with is my 9-iron. Okay. When I get to my sand wedge, I hit that from a little bit further distances, but I love my 9-iron. I love hitting these low little, kind of what I would call a chip almost. Ball just gets up over the fringe and runs towards the hole. So what my suggestion would be, pick something that you like and get good at it. All right. One way to get good at it is to do a lot of, once you get the motion, okay, and your technique's pretty good, is then to work on your distance control. Okay. So using TrackMan like a golf cave is great. But you could easily set something up in your yard, right? Where you pace off certain distances and start to learn, okay, how far each swing goes, right? Wouldn't it be great on the golf course if you're like, well, I'm 10 yards. Well, my 10-yard chip is, 7 o'clock to, 4 o'clock on the other side, or wherever it might be. Or my 30-yard pitch is really, my hip to my hip, and really be able to control those distances. I think one thing I would say to you as well is, and probably if I ask the question, kind of like the putting thing, how many times do you chip and pitch during a round? A lot, I would guess, right? So another fascinating thing about tour players that people don't realize is that if they're playing 18 holes of golf, right? So we call one of the stats that we track is how many greens you hit in regulation during a round. So hitting a green in regulation is like, so on a par 4 means you hit your tee shot, hit your second shot on the green. On a par 3, you hit your tee shot on the green, right? On a par 5, you hit your drive, you hit your second shot, you hit your third shot on the green, kind of allowing for 2 putts for par. Average tour player, you think that they hit all their greens in regulation, right? To be able to shoot 72, 71, 70, maybe even better. It's crazy. They only hit 11.6 around. So that means a lot of the time, 6 to 7 times around, what are they doing? They're chipping and pitching, right? So for us, mere mortals, that number might be 4 greens in a round that you hit. Okay, so you're spending almost your entire round doing what? Chipping. Okay, chipping, pitching, getting the ball onto the green from there, and hopefully making a putt, right? So that's why this part of the game is going to be really crucial for you. I think to lower your scores quick, okay, we're just applying like that 70-30 rule, okay? So key fundamentals here with chipping, all right? If I had to pick like the trinity of chipping, 1, narrower stance, right? That's for sure. You need a smaller stance. You know, can you imagine trying to hit a chip with a big, wide stance you use for driver? Gonna be tough to do, all right? It's gonna be tough to control how far the club back goes back. Okay, 2, okay? Weight forward, okay? The trinity. Number 2, your weight's gotta be on that front leg. And try to feel like you're taking your sternum or your, you know, zipper on your shirt and pushing it forward, okay? And then last, the 3rd, okay, is making a very connected swing, meaning going back to that towel drill or the coronavirus ball, where we're gonna move everything together. You see that when I'm doing this, I don't have a lot of extra parts going on, all right? Everything's moving together. My arms are really up against my chest. Makes it much easier for me to make a contact. It's gonna make you a lot more consistent. Keep it simple. Okay, and I think the simpler the motion, the better off we're all going to be for sure. Okay, the last thing before we open up the questions just has to do with ball position. So when you read a lot of like golf articles, you'll see like they teach chipping off the back foot, right? You'll see teachers teach it like back here, all right, or their hands will be right and forward. I didn't say any of that. Kind of kept you guys pretty neutral here, which I'm a fan of. We don't want to have all these different angles going on. What I'll tell you though, is that your ball position just affects how high the ball goes up in the air. All right. So if you see people hit especially on TV, these really cool looking high shots, besides the fact they're extremely talented, the one thing they're doing, they're just changing their ball position to do that. Okay. So if I want to hit a medium, this is what we talk about my kids at Monmouth, a medium trajectory shot, that ball would be off my in the middle of my stance. If I wanted to hit it really low, I'd play it off my back foot. If I wanted to hit a little higher, I'd play the ball towards my front foot. Everything else is the same. The trinity stays the same. The only thing you changed was where the ball was in your stance. Pretty cool. So not that I ever think you guys are going to hit the ball into the trees. But if you had to hit a punch shot, low out, that's how you would do it as well. You play the ball off that back foot and you hit the trajectory, the ball will come out a lot lower. Pretty cool. All right. Did nothing else but change your ball position. And get yourself one of these. You could do so much work on this 70-30 concept at home with just a ruler, a little training aid that you made at Home Depot for like $2, a towel and a ball, which would be really great. Do I have any, I like to open it up to any questions about anything.
Michelle, it's Alice.
Alice.
We've talked about stance, we've talked about practice, we've talked about
Sure.
the type of equipment.
Sure.
This may sound crazy, but does the type of ball, a hard ball, a soft ball for a woman or a more advanced player, should they use a harder, firmer ball like a Titleist? Should a beginner use a softer ball? Does it make a difference for distance and drivability?
Makes a huge difference. So I'll tell you two interesting. Okay, we'll go down the 3 categories that you went through. So if you're a new player, what you got to do is go to Walmart or Target, go into their sporting goods area, and you'll see both those stores have this thing called a used golf ball or hit it again twice golf balls. You're going to buy a bunch of golf balls. I think there's the one at Target's like 48 golf balls for like $20.
Mhm.
Golf balls that were refurbished, cleaned up, and they sell it back to you. If you're a new player, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to lose a lot of golf balls, and it's totally cool So don't spend all your money on golf balls until you feel like, you're getting to a point where you're not losing somebody, right? And that's great. And I always think if you're a new player, keep a couple balls in your pocket. If you're out of play, you only spent 50 cents on that ball, just put another ball down and keep going. Okay, so that's one big point of advice. It does matter, golf balls. I'll tell you the two things about golf balls that are interesting for every, as you become more experienced. Golf balls are designed now to go pretty straight, which is kind of cool. So back in the day when I learned how to play golf, the ball actually moved a lot more. Okay, so they actually curve more than it does now. The big thing for us as women is compression. That's the harder softball question that you're asking. So if you're swinging at a slower swing speed, we're not swinging like Tiger Woods, okay? We want to play a softer ball, okay? It's going to be easier for us to compress the ball and make the ball go further. If you play a ball like a Pro V1, which is the high-end Titleist ball, $50 a dozen, you're not going to hit it further at all. Probably the opposite. You're going to have a harder time compressing the ball. So compressing meaning making the ball literally almost jumping off the club face, okay? And that's relative to your speed. So soft golf ball is the way to go. I'm a big fan. Callaway's got a great ball. It's called Super Soft. I don't know if you guys have noticed, and it's great. We've gotten away from calling golf balls women's balls and men's, or not men's, just women's balls, right? Golf balls. There are a lot of guys I teach that do great with the softer golf ball too, because they're not swinging super fast. So that's great that we've kind of got the gender out of it. So Wilson's got another really good golf ball. It's called the Elite 55 ball, which is a 55 compression ball. They have a new one that just came out. It's a little softer too, that I actually use in the wintertime because it's softer and it's easier for me to compress and the ball goes further. It's a great question. So new players, get those refurbished golf balls. And for most women out there, the softer golf ball, you're going to get a lot more out of. And they're not as expensive.
Thanks.
Michelle?
Yes.
Hi, it's Anne. I have a question. I want to say it's great that you're reviewing these basics. It always helps get the rust out.
Sure.
And it's so important to reconsider that and drill them in, because only recently have I started doing some competitive play just
Sure.
because I've been invited to do that and said, okay, I'll get out of the box. But I noticed that sometimes you can feel your mental game falling apart.
Sure.
And if you just regroup and say, let me go back to the basics, it's amazing how much it puts your game right back on track, at least to where you should be. So I can't emphasize enough for all of us who are participating. This is really, really solid information. And we want to just revisit that as often as possible.
Yeah, I want to say just two things about that. It's very interesting. So they did an interview with Jim Furyk a couple years ago, PGA Tour player who has won, across the world, right? One of the best players he's ever played. And he said that he's always fascinated when he plays in pro-ams. When he plays in pro-ams, that when a player he's playing with gets off track, that all of a sudden these guys were looking at like positions and all this stuff. That Furyk, is really, for him, it's like 4 or 5 things. And it's all basic stuff. Okay, it goes back to hand position, alignment, basics of the motion. It's a lot of times there's not anything that's that extravagantly complicated. We're getting back to those fundamentals is huge. We didn't cover this, but a third type of workshop or next part of getting ready for the year is definitely the mental piece of this. And I can't tell you that I think that in golf there's a couple skills you got to work on. One definitely is the physical skills, right? Obviously, grip, setup, posture, the technique piece. But the second piece that's equally as important is the human skills. And that's your ability to go out, especially if you're playing in some competition or playing in an outing for the first time. It's all the same stuff, what you're feeling, but it's how do you manage it? You know, how do you manage slow play? How do you manage if it starts to rain? How do you manage if the person you're playing with, you guys, they talk way too much, right? Whatever it might be. But those human skills are big, 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 big in golf. I may have said this last time, but think about this. This is good food for thought. You're out on the golf course for 4 hours, hopefully, right? Only 30 minutes is actual swinging. You spend 3 hours and 30 minutes doing a lot of other stuff, which is what makes golf awesome because it's such a social game and the opportunity to have an experience with other people. But to your point, there's a whole piece to this that you also have to manage. So I encourage you guys to go check out some Vision 54 stuff. That's Pia Nilsson and Lynn Marriott stuff. We actually do that same training with our players at Monmouth. It's fantastic. It's really helped us out a lot. Just kind of dealing with more of those human elements of playing. We all tend to think it's mechanical, and sometimes it isn't. So really good point. Yep.
Michelle, how do you know if you're too close or too far away from your ball in any position?
Yeah, well, I think, one of the things that I think is good double checking. So I actually really like this. If you were to kind of stand straight up and straight down with your hands next to on your legs, really simple, kind of lean down like you're going to grab your knees, and right before your knees, right? This is where we put our hands together. Okay, and then I would flex my knees. So I'm really looking, try to see a couple things here. My arms are really hanging pretty straight from my shoulders. My hands are really about underneath my chin, and about a hand away from my body. All right, so if you use any video work or if you get an opportunity, like you can actually get yourself in that position to see where you're at. Am I here? Am I too far? Or do I feel like I'm too close? I would tell you that the majority of people I teach get too far from the ball. I don't know if that's helpful. Then they do get too close. So I don't know, that may be just human nature, but that's how I would do it. Just kind of like, all right, let me get down, feel my knees, where am I? Where my arms are, where my hands are.
Hello, I didn't catch the name of your winter Wilson ball.
Wilson Elite.
55 is the summer, and then
Yeah, it's called Elite.
just Elite, and then 55 was the summer one.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about the Brookstone 6E? I don't have that high.
I haven't had an opportunity to try it. So
I'm looking for softer, so that's good.
yeah, so I softer the better, I think.
Yep, I'm definitely slower swing speed.
Every bit helps.
Right. Michelle,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
going back to the balls, what do you think about buying recycled balls? Like the Callaway super softs. You can buy them recycled.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you can run into, if you just don't know how long those balls have been sitting in some warehouse. I mean, that's the only thing I would say. So I think that any kind of recycled, refurbished golf ball for a newer player makes a lot of sense. I've gotten lucky. I did do that once. I bought a bunch off of, I play a lot of golf, so I just threw them in my bag. And I could see that there was, the continuity or how good every ball is probably could be questionable. So it depends. I mean, I think if you're going to use them for practice, that's fine, and you can just throw it out, swap out a ball. But if you're playing, and I know there's some of you guys going to start playing in some competition, definitely, you want to have competition, ready golf balls, so that way that they're in good shape. Golf balls now are made so differently, though. Like I said earlier, like they are more durable. So I always feel like I'm like this olden person when I say this, but back when I learned how to play, like the golf balls were a lot softer. I kind of miss that. There was a ball that was called a balata ball, which basically the inside was liquid. It was so cool because when you hit it, you could actually really feel the ball compress. The problem is that if you hit it off a cart path or anything, it would get scuffed up and it would cut very easily. So our golf balls are made a lot more durable now, and they're made to go obviously longer if you have, especially with the right compression, and a lot straighter. Same thing with our golf clubs. It may not feel that way, but the clubs are designed that way as well.
So one quick question then about clubs.
Mhm.
When shopping for clubs, a common question that comes up is, what is your desired trajectory?
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to hit it high? Do you want to hit it low? Do you want to hit it? Yeah. Do you want to hit it right to left? Do you want to hit it left to right? Right. So great. That's a really great question. I mean, I think that's one of the advantages if you do get club fitted and you go to somebody who is excellent, you're really at a level that you want to get clubs that are really made for you. That's the whole idea. A lot of times if you were going to buy clubs off the rack, which is fine, it does work, but you end up changing you to fit the club. So I think that's, certainly going to an expert club fitter, especially when you're getting to that level, they can really kind of fine tune those pieces. There are golf clubs that are made, let's say, for example, you're someone who slices the ball, which is a lot of people. There are golf clubs that are made now with more of a draw bias. I would say it looks like almost 80% of the clubs on the market are draw bias because probably about 90% of people hit the ball to the right, if they're right-handed. So there's all kinds of different ways to dial in what you want specifically for you. I will tell you, I think the most important thing, three things. One, do you like the way they look? I know that sounds really silly and simple, but if you look down at a golf club and you don't like the way it looks, I don't think your confidence level of hitting it is going to be really that great. So that's one. The second thing we want to make sure is like that the flex is the right flex. So that's the flexibility of the shaft, right? So I have a lot of people who come, especially women who are using hand-me-down clubs that their husbands or fathers or partners used to have, and they're too heavy and they're not flexible enough. And they're swinging something that's going to be too difficult for anyone to hit. So that's number two. And the third is the lie angle. Okay, so what the heck is the lie angle? Lie angle is the angle of the club relative to the ground. Okay, so we can, if you're somebody who's taller, you can have clubs that are, guess what, flatter. If you're somebody who is shorter, you'd have clubs that are more upright. Okay, this has a very direct correlation with where the ball goes. So I can't tell you the amount of times I see clients that come in with, I'm not worried about even the length of the club. I'm worried about that lie angle. My lie angle is wrong, and they're hitting the ball offline, and they think it's them, and it's not. So those are 3 places that you want to make sure that you have a good fit. And I can tell you that from personal experience. I had a set of Callaways that were fitted for me. I got them this a couple years ago. I hit everything left. And I kept, thinking it was me, right? Because I just got these clubs. They were fitted. It just didn't look right. And I know what I'm talking about. The clubs just didn't look right to me. And again, that goes back to the look. But I kind of knew the ball was going to go to the left just looking at it. And it turned out that I had a bad fitting. They were like when they came from the manufacturer, they were the wrong lie angle. And they were 2 degrees too flat. So it didn't matter. Everything was going to go to the left. So as soon as I got into the set that I have now currently, it's changed like almost a 20-yard difference in direction. So you may not have that kind of extreme experience that I did, but certainly those 3 things. 1, do you like the way it looks? 2, is it the right flex and the weight? And 3, is the lie angle correct? The way I feel about golf clubs, very simple. If you decided tomorrow that you were going to start training for a marathon, would you use old sneakers? Probably not. So if you're going to play a lot of golf, making even, you don't have to make a huge investment, but making a small investment into clubs that are a really good fit for you, is gonna make the game a whole lot more enjoyable. And that's what it's supposed to be. As hard as it is, don't make it any harder.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Michelle, are you ready to do a wrap up?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to thank everyone for coming. Michelle, I particularly want to thank you for doing the 2 sessions. Please remember on Saturday, we have our tee off at 10 o'clock for the Coastal New Jersey chapter. And I'll see you all on the golf course.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thank you very much. Nice meeting you all.
Have a great night,
Likewise.
guys. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.